Welcome everyone to today's session of our survivorship series led by Babs Jackson. Today, Babs will be discussing the Lymphatic Energy Tree Program. This seminar is hosted by the Blum Resource Center. Over at the Blum, we are grateful to the survivorship team for this continued partnership. The recording of this session will be posted on our Blum YouTube playlist and our Blum Digital Resource Center, as well as the survivorship website. For those of you watching live, if you have any questions related to today's program, please feel free to utilize the chat feature throughout the session. And at the end, we will use your questions in the chat to moderate a brief Q&A. If you have any other questions or would like more information about resources and programs offered through the Blum, please visit our website at www.dana-farber.org/resource center, or you can email us at blum_center@dfci.harvard.edu. Thank you all for joining us. I will now pass the workshop over to Babs.
Hello, welcome. I'm very excited to be here and to share these resources with all of you. I'm used to seeing faces when I present, so I hope that it comes across as simple and effective, and really you learn a lot from today's session. So I actually switched up what I was going to teach because I really believe in these practices, and I've now taught my patients many of my online community. So I really hope that you take something away from today. And like it was mentioned, it's going to be recorded, and I also have some handouts too with these tips that summarize it. So really just sit back and relax and enjoy this this opportunity to help yourself. So just a quick disclaimer for this video and this video recording. All of the information, the education, and the guidance are intended to just be educational, but not individual medical advice. So if you do have further questions, you can speak to a lymphedema therapist or your doctor to get individualized care. So a little bit about me. I might know some of you who are watching this, but if not, hi, I'm Babs. I'm an occupational therapist, lymphedema therapist, and yoga teacher. And I live in Boston. I actually live in the North End, where I host all of my virtual programs right here in my tiny little apartment. But I host virtual wellness programs for people with lymphatic disorders or who are at risk. So those who have been diagnosed with cancer, lymphedema, lipedema, or have swelling somewhere in their body that they're wanting or needing guidance and care for. And I work at Brigham and Women's Faulkner Hospital, which is in Jamaica Plain. So this is just information about my program. So basically we meet once a week for 6 weeks and learn everything you need to know about to successfully manage lymphedema or lipedema, or to prepare and reduce your risk. So that's on my website if you ever are interested. And the next one begins in a couple of weeks in October. So my inspiration, so the reason why I have created all of these programs and all of this information is for my mom. My mom, her name is Tina. When I was in middle school, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she's doing wonderful now, which is awesome. And so, but unfortunately she developed lymphedema, which at the time we were like, what's lymphedema? Like, what is this? You know, her rings got tighter, her clothing didn't fit right. She just felt uncomfortable. And so I basically made it my adult life mission to try to figure out what lymphedema is and what are the best strategies and management tools to successfully live with it. And so my mom has been my true guinea pig for the last 6 years for everything that involves lymphedema. And so all these programs I do, she was the reason I started it. And then I saw how much it helped my patients, it helped my family, my friends. So yeah, this is why I'm doing everything. And I love her if she love you, mom, if she is watching this. But this is just a little quote that she wrote. We did a blog together just about her experience going through cancer and lymphedema. And so she said, Babs not only treated my lymphedema, but she helped me with my whole body's health. I now understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Today, my arm is under control, and I'm managing my lymphedema through many ways. And now lymphatic flow yoga is in my weekly routine. So also, just a side note, my mom was not someone who ever practiced yoga. So if you're coming here and you're like, oh no, it's a yoga presentation, do not worry, because you are going to be just fine, and you'll be better than fine. And so she kind of adopted it with me during the pandemic, because as you all know, the outpatient clinic shut down, everything shut down, and I worked on a COVID unit, so I wasn't able to see my mom in person due to risk of exposure, because I was working all day on the unit. And so that's when we started doing virtual yoga. And so she was, like I said, a person who was like, I'm not doing yoga. I'm like, what do you mean? To someone who regularly now practices it, and her balance has improved. So many things have improved, but especially her lymphatic health. So that's a little bit about my mom. So now about all of you. So what are we going to learn today? What are we going to do? So I first am going to start off by teaching you all what is lymphatic flow yoga. So it's a type of yoga that I've created to improve lymphatic health. So I'll go through all of the different components and teach you how to do it, essentially. And then something I'm super excited about that I'm going to teach all of you is something called the energy tree analogy. So I'm going to give you some very solid and tangible tips to use throughout the day to balance your energy. And then we'll probably do a short 10-15 minute chair lymphatic flow yoga practice, just kind of like a sample class, and then just a Q&A. So what is lymphatic flow yoga? So it's a mindful movement practice to encourage lymphatic health through guided self-manual lymph drainage, emphasis on breath work, awareness of the lymph pathways, and the use of muscle pumps to assist lymph flow to restore mind and body balance. Essentially just a way to incorporate all lymphatic health practices into a flow. So there's 4 different components of this practice, and these components are also the 4 different ways that our lymph flows throughout our body. So the first is breathing. So I'm going to teach you some breathing techniques to stimulate the lymph flow. The second is manual lymph drainage. So how to stimulate, awaken the lymphatic system to encourage more movement. The third is our actual yoga postures. So the movement, the muscle contraction to provide the skeletal muscle contraction to move the fluid. And then the fourth is mindfulness. So don't worry about remembering all these, or don't worry about writing them all down. We'll go through each one, and I'll make sure you understand them all. And you can always watch and rewatch the video too. So no worries, just go into it with a little bit of open mind. So the first is breathing. So we're going to start off by just placing our feet onto the ground and just get into a comfortable position. So in your entire body, you have around 600 to 700 lymph nodes. So I'm sure all of you who are here or watching this have heard of lymph nodes before, especially if you've had a diagnosis of cancer or of lymphedema. So you're born with around 600, but a majority of those lymph nodes, about a little bit more than half, are in the abdominal region. So around your intestines, around your hips, around your rib cage. So there's also something, so stimulating that area is super important just for the fact that that's the largest cluster of lymph nodes, but also there's this major duct called your thoracic duct that goes up the center of the body that takes all the fluid from the lower half of the body up back into the heart. So doing deep breathing helps to, one, stimulate all those lymph nodes in the abdominal region, but also helps to massage that thoracic duct to improve flow through the lower half of the body. So I always go back to the first time that I was kind of taught to breathe, because I think a lot of us come into this world with different things and stress, and we become chest breathers. So when you go to inhale, everything kind of skyrockets. It goes, and everything, that was exaggerated, but it all comes up. That's something called clavicular breathing. So those are using muscles that aren't really supposed to help us breathe. So those are secondary muscles. So our primary muscles are our diaphragm, this muscle that's underneath your ribs, this large dome-like figure, and then our intercostal, the muscles between our ribs. So when we do slow breathing, we really want to feel that coming from the center of our body. So one way to do this is just to place your hands to your belly, relax your shoulders. You can close your eyes if you'd like. And we'll take a slow breath in through the nose. And then a slow breath out through the mouth. Inhale. And exhale. Notice where in your body you're feeling the breath move. And then as you breathe in, imagine that the belly is filling like a balloon into the hands. And as you exhale, it slowly comes back towards the spine. Now, to improve a little bit of activation of the lymph nodes in this area, as you breathe in, gently apply a little bit of pressure to your belly. See how I'm doing here in this picture? And then as you exhale, release the pressure and let your body exhale. Let's try it one more time. Inhale, give a little push, push, push. And exhale, let it relax. So this is something you can do when you're waiting for an appointment, when you're in the car, when you're sitting on the couch, before a meal. Encourage these deep diaphragmatic breaths, because the more you do this, the more that's going to pump all this fluid in the center of the body. So if you experience any bloating in the digestion area in the stomach, any thickness or swelling in the legs from sitting for a prolonged period of time, by simply doing this breathing, you're going to encourage this massaging and this vacuum-like effect that's going to suck all the fluid up to get it filtered quicker. So just taking slow breaths, and that little resistance is a little bit of a bonus. Hopefully everyone's feeling okay so far. I usually would go have everyone do the thumbs up, but I'm sure you're doing well. Okay, so the next component is self-manual lymph drainage. So this you've probably heard of. It's a type of massage to encourage fluid movement through the lymph vessels in the body. So remember how earlier I said there's about 600, 700 lymph nodes in the body? Majorities in the belly and abdominal region. The second largest area is in the chest and the neck. So all the fluid from the body gets moved through the body, gets filtered by lymph nodes in certain areas, and then comes back to the heart. So basically, it's a one-way path through filtration by the lymph nodes back to the heart. So before we do our movement, before we do our practice, we want to open up this area as well, so that it's a free flow back to the heart. So I often tell my patients it's similar to, like, if you had 1 million cars lined up on your arm. In order for the cars at the top of the hand to move, all of these cars have to move first. So if we had a big clogged car jam here, none of that fluid from the armpit, the axilla, none of that fluid from the arm is going to be able to move. So we really want to clear centrally, so clear close to the body, so that when we do our movement, the flow is easier, has an easier path. Those cars can move and everything's moving good. So the warm up to this is 3 simple areas that I always go through. So the first is the chest. So everyone can take their hands and cross it like I'm doing here in the picture, or you can do just one hand at a time. That's totally fine if your arm's restricted or if it doesn't feel good in your body. So make sure to have skin to skin contact. So you really want to have your hand nice and flat on the skin. And then you're going to just close your eyes and gently make some circles here at the collarbones. So you have lymph nodes above and below the collarbone here. And then all that fluid will go back, dumping back into the heart via ducts behind the clavicles. So doing this, just a light skin stretching, just breathing here. About 6 to 10 times or so. The next position is at the neck, hands to the sides of the neck. Then you're going to stretch down, back, and then down. So you're just stretching back and then down. So this right here, there's a large cluster of lymph nodes along the side of the neck. So as you're doing this, you're encouraging movement from the lymph flow from the face, from the brain to filter down. And then the third position is the shoulder. So you're going to place your hands on the shoulders and gently stretch the skin. So make sure you're going skin to skin contact. Just stretching, moving the shoulders. Again, you can do this one hand at a time, too, but you're just aiming that fluid in towards the collarbones. And you can pump the elbows as you do this too. So pump up and down. And then relax your hands down, close your eyes, take a slow breath in and out. And just notice how you feel. Notice if there's any lightness in the chest or the face or the jaw. So the reason why this skin stretching helps is in your little lymph vessel that carries the fluid, there's something called the lymph angion. So when you get that skin stretching effect, essentially that little lymph angion contracts, which opens up the valves of the lymph vessels to flush the fluid through. So that's why oftentimes lymphatic drainage is, if you've ever had it done, you might be like, oh, this feels like it's very light. Is this even doing anything? But that's the purpose. About, I believe 80% of our lymphatics are superficial, right underneath the skin. So really just getting that skin stretching, that pumping action will promote the contract and release of that angion to open the valves. So if there's an area that's a little bit thicker, like around the elbow or the knee, then you can work into it a little bit more because that tissue is now thicker. The fluid is now thicker. But generally, lymphatic drainage is light skin stretching, pumping, kind of like you're pushing toothpaste through a toothpaste tube. You're kind of just rolling it through, moving the skin. So if you have lymphedema in your arm, your armpit, or if you're at risk, just think about kind of stretching and getting a little bit almost like skin play, like you're just kind of playing with the skin, and see if that might give you a little bit more relief. So that's the warm up, is just this. And this is also a good warm up to do if you like to garden, if you like to swim, if you like to go to the beach and walk around, if you like to do Zumba, rebounding. Opening up your central lymphatics through deep breathing and this quick routine here to open up the chest will help to promote better flow through the rest of the body. So the next component is our actual movement. So we always, like I said, start with clearing, opening the neck and chest and stomach before doing the movement. So movement is essential for the lymphatic system because unlike the heart that has the central pump, the lymphatic system doesn't have this central pump that's pumping it throughout the day. So naturally, our lymphatic system moves super slow. So it pumps through those vessels at 1 beat every 15 seconds at rest. So that's very, very slow. So think of it like boop, 15 seconds goes by, boop. So that's why being stagnant, that's why a sedentary lifestyle that you don't move is so bad for your body and leads to so much inflammation, because it really takes the muscle, the skeletal contraction to pump the vessels and move the fluid through. So even if you can't really move too much, even just doing a little bit of shoulder rolls, you can do it now with me to help open up the chest. Even if you just move your ankles around, maybe do ABCs with your foot or ankle, little movement multiple times a day will have an accumulation, will have a great effect on your body. But just remember that when you're sitting for longer than 20 minutes, just move your arms, do a little dance, make someone laugh, or do something that kind of gets this muscle contraction to move. So let me see, make sure I said everything. Yeah. So the fourth component is mindfulness. So far we did the breathing, the manual lymph drainage, the actual movement, and mindfulness is the fourth, but I think maybe the most important tool. And this is what we're really going to focus on today, is giving you simple and effective tools to really balance your energy. Because when you are at ease, when you're in a parasympathetic response or activation in that nervous system, you're at this rest and digest state. So you're calm, you're relaxed. That's the system that the lymphatic system really likes, because if you are stressed, if you're filled with cortisol, the stress hormone, and you're uptight, that is going to constrict the vessels. It's going to make everything tighter. So that's going to lead to less flow and movement. So I always like to say, in order to heal, we must feel. So I think I always tell my patients and my participants online that if they've been diagnosed with lymphedema, cancer, they're at risk, the most important part is their connection with their body. Because a lot of times through cancer process and through all of the things that are done onto the body, sometimes my patients will tell me that they're trying to almost escape their body. But really, this mindfulness practice is to bring you back into your body and really work together with your body instead of being against it. So we do that through increasing awareness and intention. And we notice, okay, I'm feeling a little bit like a balloon under my armpit, or I'm feeling a little bit over here, or I'm feeling a little in my groin. Being aware and sitting back and allowing for your body to tell you these things will then form this better relationship between your mind and body. You'll be able to listen better and respond better. I also always remind my patients, encourage my patients, that a chronic condition does not mean loss of control. So I really hope that throughout this presentation, you will gain a little bit more control of how to help yourself in simple ways. So yeah. Okay, so for the next portion, don't worry about writing anything down. I'll give you this PDF file afterwards, but it basically just breaks down what I'm going to be talking about. So it's a good thing you can print out and put in your bedroom, or in the kitchen, or in the bathroom, or something that you can basically always come back to. So this is our lymphatic energy tree. So this analogy and theory I created about a year ago when I was talking to one of my patients. And she was saying to me, she was like, Babs, sometimes I wake up and I have no energy. And other days I wake up and I feel like I'm anxious. And other days I wake up and I feel okay. And we were trying to come up with a protocol for her to do certain things every day, depending on how her energy felt. So I'm sure all of you have felt when you first wake up, you're like, oh no, like frazzled, right? So that kind of anxiety, fluttery, jittery sensations, I like to call the leaves of the tree. So if you think of a leaf, it kind of can be easily manipulated and can break off kind of just like at the snap of the fingers, right? The leaves are kind of fragile. So this is the high energy, that anxious energy. Now, if you see the branches, these are balanced energy. So if you think of the branches of a tree, they can easily be swayed and moved, but they stay stable. So they're very flexible, very adaptable. So this is when you're feeling good energy. You're not feeling too high, you're not feeling too low, you're feeling right in the middle. And then the low energy is the roots. So when you feel really stuck or immobile, or you're feeling depressed or apathetic, or you just don't want to get out of bed, you don't want to do anything, you're in this kind of negative mind frame, that's the roots. So through the next few slides, I'm going to teach you simple ways to improve your energy so that you can improve the lymphatic flow. So if you can balance your energy, keeping yourself at this nice, happy, joyful, calm, but focused state, then you're able to allow all of the organs, the systems in your body to work at their optimal opportunity, or their optimal state. Okay, so high energy, like I said, it's just these little leaves that can break off anytime. So this might be if you're waiting on results for something. This might be if you're nervous about something that you did or said in the past or future, or it can be any of that kind of jittery nervousness energy. So things you can do. So before we get all into this, I want to first explain how breathing works. So I think this is extremely beneficial and super helpful to be aware of, because I find that if you're able to really understand why you're doing something, you're more apt to do it. So essentially, as you inhale, that's stimulating the sympathetic nervous system. And as you exhale, that's stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. So many of you probably know, but the sympathetic is your fight or flight. It's this like high energy, we got to move, we got to alertness. And then the parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest. So the calming, the restful, the relaxed. So inhalation alerts you, exhalation calms you down. So the more you do one of the other, the more you can pull yourself into a rest and digest or an alert and awake. So if you're at this high energy, to bring you back down, you want to elongate that exhale to bring you back down. So let's try it together. So we'll close our eyes. And on our next breath in, we're going to inhale for a count of 1, 2, 3. And then exhale, blow out the air for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Try a couple times on your own, inhaling for 3. Exhale for 5. So that is something you can do, and you might have already felt a little bit of an effect already just from a couple of breaths. I hope you did. But the research says about 6 to 8 of those breaths will really help to lower your heart rate, calm you down, get you into that restful or relaxed state. So movement, when you're at this high energy phase, sometimes getting a little bit of movement and exercise in will help to bring you back to a balanced state. So the recommendation is about 150 minutes a week. So that's about 30 minutes 5 times a day. And that might be a little daunting to some people, that much movement, 30 minutes of exercise. But I always like to break it up for my patients or for my mom or family or loved ones. You can do a 10-minute walk in the morning, 10 minutes of yoga with me in the afternoon, and 10 minutes of walking the dog in the later in the night. So just the more you move, the more that you're going to get your circulation better, the lymph flow better, and you'll feel better. I see a comment 5 times a week. Yeah, 30 minutes 5 times a week. I don't know what I said, but yeah, 30 minutes 5 times a week. And so a mindful exercise you could do was write down 3 goals for yourself to improve your focus. So this can be a really grounding exercise. So you can basically just write down 3 goals for that day or 3 goals for the week, or keep it small at first just to bring you into a more focused state. And thanks for paying attention to whoever wrote that chat. That's good. So a yoga pose you could do was tree pose. So you can do this. You might have seen this pose before, but you can do it modified with the wall or on a chair. So just holding onto the chair or the wall and just coming onto the toes of one foot, or maybe you lift that foot up. So really getting that proprioception. So your awareness of where you are in space will help you to bring you down from that anxious energy. So one that I remember was researched a lot is grounding your hands into just even a wall. So you don't even have to do a push-up on the floor, just placing your hands at the wall and just doing a little bit of pressure against the wall. That will help you to feel that grounding in that sensation. Also in your feet, maybe do a little bouncing through the feet. So anything, or a little squeeze in the arms. So anything, and you can try these as I'm speaking too, but anything to get your mind to know where your body is in space helps you to stay more balanced and grounded. So, and then a mantra. So this is a meditation or a phrase that you can use. And some days, if you're feeling that high energy, you might use one of these and say, hey, I feel better. Some days you might use all of these. So it's really just a toolbox for you to pick and choose. But let's all close our eyes for a moment. And the next time we inhale, we're going to say in our mind, I feel. Exhale, grounded and present. Inhale, I feel. Exhale, grounded and present. And then you can blink open your eyes. So this is another one of those really beneficial, almost like a mind game. So when you actually tell yourself that you feel grounded, joyful, present, whatever words come to mind, that maybe you're gritting your teeth as you're saying it because you don't really feel it. But if you tell your body how it's feeling, the body is then going to respond and say, oh, I'm feeling grounded and present. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling joyful. And the body will tell the mind, oh, her body's feeling joyful and present. And then it will, same thing can happen, as you all know, of the negative, right? Oh, I'm in so much pain. I hate this. That's going to tell the body, oh no, protect. You gotta fight. A fight's coming. But if you tell your body, oh, I'm happy, I'm joyful, that will again kind of reinforce these positive feelings, which will create this loop. And it's very hard sometimes to get yourself out of this anxious state. But if you really try to start with the breathing and then try to add these mantras in to, it's a way to self-soothe and talk to yourself to bring yourself back down. It's very helpful. And something that I use personally in my life is different essential oils. So peppermint has been studied to help with pain management. So if you take peppermint and put it in lotion, or you put it in kind of a carrier oil, so it's not as potent, that has been helpful for a topical relief. That menthol, that's what's in like all of the Biofreeze, the Icy Hot, kind of all of those, but it's just peppermint's just a more natural way to do it. But also always check with your doctor or therapist. But that would help. Peppermint also helps to focus you. So something I've been doing lately is putting a little bit of peppermint in my shoes, and that just gives me kind of a little bit of a lightness and awakeness through my feet. Other people have put it on their wrists or in their neck, but peppermint is a very alerting and awakening oil. Hopefully everyone's feeling okay with the high energy in all the different ways. And don't worry, again, it's all written down for you. Now let's talk about balanced energy, because I hope that some days, or maybe some hours or some minutes throughout the day, you do feel balanced. You feel okay. Maybe it's after you eat a yummy meal that you've been waiting for and you're like, oh, I feel good, or right after an exercise, or right after you talk to a friend. Sometimes we feel balanced. And I hope that for all of you, you have more days of balance than not. And when you're in this kind of happy, even state, this is truly when you can really adopt these mindfulness practices. Because if you can learn and have these tools when you're feeling balanced, then if you go into that jittery state, or if you go into that depressed state, muscle memory will come back and you'll be able to recruit these tools a lot easier. So that's why they say, you really want to even meditate or do yoga or practice these skills while you're feeling good, because when you're not feeling good, you can jump right back into it, and you're have an easier way to bring yourself up or down. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so again, the branches are the adaptable, the flexible. So this breathing, you're gonna match the inhale and exhalation. So you're going to inhale for a count of 3 and exhale for a count of 3. Inhale for 3. Exhale for 3. So again, if we remember from last slide, inhalation wakes you up, exhalation calms you down. So if you're balancing the inhalation and exhalation, then you're keeping yourself stable. So movement, again, that 20 to 30 minutes if you can, but movement can really be anything. It can be just dancing. It can be walking, biking, swimming. It can be lymphatic yoga. It can be really anything that makes your soul happy and makes you, and that you enjoy. So a mindfulness exercise, gratitude is getting a ton of research lately and over the past 10 years about how when we express gratitude, how that has this physiological effect on our body and therefore on our mind. So one thing you can do is write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And I know that sounds silly and it kind of sounds cliche, but honestly, it works. There's a weird fact that your brain can't be anxious if it's expressing gratitude. So you really want to continue this flow of feeling thankful and grateful for anything. Something, a kind of personal tip that I have been doing lately is if I wake up and I'm like, oh, I don't really want to get up or whatever it might be, I immediately go, thank you, bed. Thank you, pillow. I love you, mom. I love you, dad. I love you, Danny, my husband. I love you, chair. I love you. Like just it sounds so silly, but it really helps you to get out of that negative talk and just right into gratitude. And then you start expressing how you're thankful for the smallest things. And that in turn fills your body with more light and love, and helps you just to feel better. So I encourage you to try it. Also a good thing to do if you can't fall asleep. One simple meditation that I absolutely love is you start at your feet and you inhale in your mind, you say thank you, and then exhale feet. Inhale in your mind, thank you. Exhale ankles. Inhale, thank you. Exhale knees, hips. You go all the way up your body and you just thank each part of your body. And that's giving a ton of love to each area and making you really be grateful for each part in the body, which helps to relax you. The first time I tried to do it, I think I got up to my hips and I fell asleep. So I am curious how, if you try it tonight, let me know. A yoga pose that really helpful to balance the energy. Anything that gets the hips, the pelvis, the pelvic floor, and the spine to open and move. So this you can do seated, a seated cat and cow. So place your hands on your thighs, feet onto the earth. And then on your next inhale, you're going to lift your chin to your chest to open up the chest. And then exhale, round the chin and tuck in the low belly. So this movement is super beneficial for the lymphatic system because it gets the heart, this gets the skin stretching at the neck here. And then as you exhale, you blow all the air out and you pull in the low belly, getting that core contraction. So this is a really nice one to do if you're stuck in the chair for most of the day. So that one gets really those large area of lymph nodes and lymph vessels to pump and move. It also gives you a little bit more confidence as you open your body. So when we get anxious and nervous, oftentimes we clench in because we want to kind of go back to that fetal pose. So like when we were little babies coming into this kind of protection, comfort area, but that position clenches the hips. It brings the shoulders in, it tightens the throat and the chest. So really, if you want to feel balanced and better, you open up your body and make yourself larger, because that's going to tell your mind and body that you are in charge, that you are confident, that you are healing. So try that. And let me know how. There's a really cool TED talk about that. I think it's called like I'm not sure what it's called. It's basically how your posture affects your mood and how your posture can affect your confidence, but worth a watch. So a mantra or a phrase, inhale, we'll try it together. So close your eyes, and as you inhale, you'll say, I try my best. Exhale, and I release the rest. Inhale, I try my best. Exhale, and I release the rest. That one is very special to me. That's one that I use often and I often share with my patients, because some days your best is bigger or smaller, but it's your best that day, and you just have to thank yourself for giving it your best that day. So no 2 days are alike, and especially if you're dealing with something like cancer or a lymphatic disorder or just stressors of life. Or if you're dealing with some of the symptoms and post-cancer symptoms, trying your best each day is really all you should focus on or try to accomplish. Lavender oil is one of my favorites. That's a very popular one. Helps you to stay calm. It's wonderful. Okay. Lastly is our low, stuck, depressed energy. So again, one more time, reiterating the breath. The more you inhale, the more you're going to wake yourself up. The more you exhale, calm yourself down. So to awaken yourself, you're going to repetitively elongate the inhale. So you'll inhale for a count of 5. Exhale for a count of 3. Inhale 5. Exhale 3. So continuing that will help to get more oxygen, get you a little bit more alerted. Movement, I think when you're in this depressed, low energy, give yourself a goal of 5 minutes. That's it. I have many short classes on my YouTube channel, Balance with Babs, but also maybe just sit at the edge of your bed, do some cat and cows, do a little bit of movement through your spine, little circles, little shoulder rolls, just something to move the energy and therefore move the lymph fluid in the body. I think there's a statistic that I think 80% of our body's made up of water, or something, 70 to 80, whatever. Water is energy. And that's the connection between water, energy, and the lymph fluid. It's all energy. So if we can move the lymph fluid more quickly, or if we don't let it get stagnant, then our energy is going to flow better. We're going to feel better. So a mindfulness exercise, I would strongly encourage to reach out to a loved one for support. That could be a virtual friend. That could be me. That could be your therapist. That could be a doctor you trust. That could be a friend you just met. Reach out to a loved one for support. Go on a short walk with someone. It's really super impactful just even having someone there for you. And there's a ton of support groups and a ton of love out there. So don't be alone. Us humans are not supposed to be alone. We're not meant to solely live just alone. We want to rely on community and love and support. So reach out to someone. And if you don't have anyone, let me know. We can help you find someone for you. So yoga poses that really help. Similar to what I was just saying, heart openers. So if you can all do this with me if you want, but inhale, you can spread your arms like wings, lifting the chin and the chest up. And then exhale, rounding, bringing the hands to the shoulders and tucking in. So inhale, spreading open, breathing in. Exhale. Good. So simply by opening up the heart, you're going to get yourself to feel a little bit better. Supine hip openers, that essentially is just moving the hips to create some space. So what I was talking about earlier, when we come into that fetal position, the hips come inward and they contract. So that's why a lot of people have hip issues, low back issues, especially those who are dealing with some mental health component as well, because everything is coming inward. So really by opening up the hips, I have many short videos. I actually have one on my channel called my grandfather's routine. When my grandpa was alive, I taught him this like 5-minute morning routine to open up his hips, and he lived to 94. So maybe that did something. I'm hoping that did something. But there's also ways that you can do hip openers in the chair seated, so I can teach you all that too. So a mantra meditation, this one goes along with the one we did earlier that helps you to feel certain feelings. So let's close our eyes again. Just relax your shoulders. On the next in-breath, say, I choose. On the exhale, say, to feel joy, happiness, and peace. I choose to feel joy, happiness, and peace. And then just notice how you feel. So for essential oils, any citrus oils, so my favorite is orange oil. That gives me a very joyful feeling. It's a very refreshing feeling. Lemongrass, lemon, any of those citrus oils will help to lift your spirits. So again, all of this is written out in this little PDF file that I created that goes over if you're feeling high anxious energy, continue to feel balanced, or if you're feeling the low, depressed, apathetic, which is the kind of lack of energy to do anything. So that I can send to or whatever, we'll figure it out. I'll make sure that you all get it. Another resource that I think is very helpful that I created is, this is strictly for lymphedema and specifically breast cancer related. So when you are diagnosed with breast cancer, this a couple things that happen can put you at risk for lymphedema. So if you've had lymph nodes removed, if you've had radiation to the area, then your lymphatic system has been disrupted. And so these are basically all of the major questions that I always receive from my patients of what is lymphedema, what can cause it, how do I reduce my risk, what are early warning signs, when I develop lymphedema, does it go away, how can I manage it, guided self-manual lymph drainage. So here, when you click on that, it will have each area of the body teaching you how to do the manual lymph drainage on yourself, and like a slow, we did it very briefly today just as an overview, but that goes through each step of how you actually massage yourself. And then how to find a therapist near you, and meditations, and also lymphatic flow yoga videos. So that you can find at linktree.com/lymphedema. We can also send out this like QR code or the link here, but it's linktree.com/lymphedema. And then all of my yoga videos are on the YouTube Balance with Babs, and they're all free and accessible to you.
We have a few questions. The first one, does it matter which direction we're moving our hands on our collarbone?
So yes and no. So honestly, to keep it kind of simple, you just want to have maximum surface area. And then I go inward like this because I think about it encouraging the fluid kind of in this way. But I have seen practitioners and people do it this way. So for me, it just makes more sense to come in towards the neck. So everything's kind of coming down and in towards those collarbones, because this is where the fluid's re-entering the circulatory system. So, but I think if you're going this way, if you're going that way, you're still stimulating the area. So I wouldn't get too boggled down or focus on which direction. I mean, on the arm, obviously you're going to move in the direction that you want the fluid to go. But at the chest, just stimulate, move. You can even do some pumping. I sometimes kind of stretch my arms down the neck. Also let your body be the kind of the judge too. See how you feel after you do it. And if you're feeling a little bit lighter, then maybe that indicates you're doing it good. But if you don't feel anything, maybe switch it up and try different techniques.
Great, thank you. What tips do you have for breast lymphedema?
Oh, where do
Very
I
general.
Too many. I think we would spend another hour. Maybe we should have a follow-up of this, but my kind of top quick tips for breast lymphedema would be to go see a certified lymphedema therapist. That would be the biggest thing, because there's so many ways that you can find relief through massage, through compression garments, through certain pec stretches. But I would say come see me at Faulkner, or on that resource page, it has how you can find a lymphedema therapist in your area. But I would say go get support, because you do not have to feel the pain you're probably feeling. There is definitely chance and opportunity for relief for you.
Great, thank you. And we have one in the chat. Can you briefly demonstrate the massage for lymphedema in the leg? Not sure if you can do this right now, but.
Yeah, I have a full video on the YouTube channel, but basically you want to start with the breathing, the chest massage, pumping, massaging the hip bones, and then going from the thigh up, bottom of the foot or the calf all the way up. But basically start with the breathing and start massaging the hips, and then just pulling that fluid up the leg. But yeah, I think you deserve a longer explanation. So go check out that video. And then if you have questions, feel free to contact me.
Great. I believe that covers all of the questions that we received. One more. Do you recommend wearing compression garments when you fly?
Yeah, this is a question I get a lot. So I'll pretend that you're my patient. I'll tell what I would say to my patients. So basically, when you're in an airplane, when you're going up in the sky, the gravitational pressure is not as much. That's why we float on the moon, right? So that pressure on the vessels is not as much. So that allows for more dilation of the blood vessels, which creates more lymphatic fluid that's circulating. So if you have a well-fitting, appropriate compression garment, that will keep you from filling up. So if you experience swelling, or if you already have swelling, then yes, I would definitely wear a compression garment. But if you're at risk, or if you've never had lymphedema or swelling, then I think that would be a bigger question for you and your doctor or therapist to really figure out individual's care. But if you have lymphedema, or you're experiencing some type of swelling, yes, it's beneficial to wear a garment while flying.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much, Babs. This was a really great discussion, presentation. We will be posting this on our Blum YouTube playlist, as well as the survivorship website. And I will make sure that that flyer resource is posted in the Digital Resource Center as well. And I'll link it in the description of the YouTube. So thank you, everybody, and have a good day.
Thank you.